listen, upon the death of this young lady, then percentage of it goes to Southeastern Conference. The other percentage goes to Miami Union. The other percentage goes to whoever. But then, of course, you're probably going to have a trustee who's going to be the person to administer that. That trustee is going to be the person in charge of that money when you pass away. It could be your child, or it can even be, sometimes I've seen situations where it's the church as well, or it could be an attorney's office. And so once you pass away, they're going to read the trust and say, okay, well, I know where this money goes. And the trustee is then going to write a check and give it to those individuals that you've outlined. That's how it would practically work in your situation.
In other words, you don't lose the control of your money until you die.
Yes.
So, because maybe you need it forward.
Right.
Also with the trust, because in the trust, you are the trustor, you are the trustee, the person, and also you are the beneficiary.
Yes.
And then when you pass, then have 50% go to one side, 50% go to another side. So you need it before you have it.
Amen. There's a question here, and don't forget, there's questions over this side. We may need to get another microphone. Go ahead.
Yes. The church has been mentioned very much. Mm-hmm. The conference, likewise, because it's both entity. You could do it for the church and for the conference.
Right.
Now, I think it is a little bit, sometimes to some people, it's frightening. Mm-hmm. So we could also educate the people that they could choose to ask to the church or the conference to distribute this money to, could be communication department, could be youth department, could be different department. And I think some people are less afraid than to just hear church, church, church. But they might love a certain department of the church that they would really want to make that special contribution.
No problem. And just to be clear, the reason why I use the church as an umbrella terminology. It could be your local church. It could be the conference. It could be a department within the church. It's any type of community or charitable organization that you want to leave your money to. And the purpose is to let you know that this option is available to you. If you walk out of here and say, oh, I'm not leaving any money to the church, that's on you. You have the right to do that. But a lot of times many individuals don't know, well, I do. I didn't know I could leave it to the church. I didn't know that was an option available to me. And I wanted to say, yes, that option is available to you and how it can be done. And to specifically answer his question, you can leave it to a specific department, that you want to leave it to. That option's available to you in a will, and that option's available to you also in a trust.
My question is, how easy is it to set up a trust? Because my grandson has been talking to us about it, but he mentioned something about needing to have a burial ground there, something of that nature.
So those are two separate things, right? So how easy is it to set up a trust? Let me answer that question first, and then talk about the burial part as well. It's as easy as contacting an attorney's office, sitting down with that attorney and paying the necessary fee and outlining to that attorney what it is that you want to happen with your assets, right? And then the attorney will draft the documents. You will then come and sign and notarize those documents, and now you've established a trust. The next part of that is to then fund your trust. That means you want to put money into your trust so that when you die, everything that's in your trust will go to your beneficiaries. How do you fund your trust? One way to fund your trust is to go to the bank and open up a trust account, and you put your monetary assets into the trust. If you own property, one way to put your property into the trust is to use a quitclaim deed and transfer your property into your trust. In order to do those deeds, there's documents that's drafted by attorneys and signed and notarized by you. That's the process in setting up and funding a trust. Now you talked about burial, prepaid burial. Those are funeral homes that you can contact and say, listen, I want to set up a prepaid burial plan, and they will tell you how much that costs, and then you can get that taken care of. So you can go to funeral homes, or some people, in terms of taking care of their death, they get life insurance, and they say, listen, when I die, use this life insurance to pay for my death. That's not prepaid burial, but there's an option called prepaid burial, of which you can go to a funeral home to obtain that. You can get that done. So that's what your son may be talking about in terms of prepaid burial, where you go to a funeral home and say, listen, I want to pay for my casket, I want to pay for where I'm going to be buried, and all those types of things. And so that will be done. And when that is done, make sure you give that information to your son or whoever's going to be taking care of your affairs when you pass away, so that when you do pass away, they know, oh, this is the company that I need to call when you pass away. Oh, you have another question as well?
One does not mean that you have to do the other. They're not synonymous. Is that the word I'm looking for?
Right. When you do one, it doesn't automatically do the other. When you create a trust, it does not automatically create a prepaid burial for you. Those are two separate things. Remember, a trust takes care of your assets. What happens to my assets when I die? Who's it going to go to? A prepaid burial says what's going to happen to my body when I die. What's going to happen? Where's my body going to go, and who's going to pay for it to be embalmed, and what casket is it going to go to, and what, memorial gardens it's going to go to. That's the prepaid burial. The trust is what's going to happen to my money, my assets.
Okay, so if I don't leave anything at all, and my kids don't even know that I have something, and they don't ask for anything, where does your asset go?
So let's with that hypothetical, let's throw out what assets we have. Do you own a home? We got a home, and then there's some money in the bank, right? Very little money in the bank. So that's a great question. I like that question, because what happens, you die?